Good morning and greetings from foggy Alberta. Sun's coming up. Beautiful day for a fire. You know what's really been bugging me lately is the disparity of how different protests are treated differently by police, politicians, and media in Canada, depending on if they agree with the ideology behind it or not. If, for example, you are protesting the Canadian government in Canada against vaccine mandates or not wanting the government to force drugs into you or your family under multiple threats of unemployment, segregation, organized public hatred, and all the things that the unvaccinated faced. The media and politicians will be disingenuous, provide misinformation, and straight up lie. If you are protesting for a cause, for example, like Black Lives Matter or Free Palestine in Canada, they will downplay the hatefulness. They will downplay the aggressiveness. And they will, if you're protesting against the Canadian government, they will lie about you. They will say you have weapons in Ottawa in your trucks. They will say you're stealing food from the homeless, that you are a danger, that you're setting an apartment on fire. They will take the smallest little nugget of misinformation and run with it for days and paint an entire group of people as extremists and even Nazis. There was the one guy at the Ottawa protest with the Nazi flag for a few minutes. Don't even know for sure what his meaning was or if he was even part of the actual protest. And what did they do for weeks? They lumped everybody in as a group. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a professor of Middle East history here, and this video is not about that. People in that region of the Middle East have been fighting each other for thousands of years. People can say, after the State of Israel was formed in 1948 and this, that, and that, but different groups and tribes and regions of people there have been fighting for thousands of years. And to be fair, people all over Earth have been fighting for thousands of years, if your civilization is old enough. But what's bothering me is the difference between how the media will lie and magnify the smallest minute details if it's in their favor. Where we have people on video in Canada, on Canadian streets, cheering for the October 7th terrorist attack in Israel. We've seen multiple videos. We've seen convoys of people cheering in southern Ontario, Mississauga specifically, I saw, right after the attack. People hanging out of vehicles and cheering and waving flags. Now, I have no problem with Canadians protesting, even if I disagree with you. But what we've seen gone on here is not fair. Take a look at this.
At a protest calling for a ceasefire, words that caused shock and widespread condemnation.
Long live October 7th! Long live the resistance!
Cheers of support for statements glorifying the October 7th attacks, when, according to Israel, Hamas killed nearly 1,200 people in southern Israel and about 250 people were taken hostage.
That was Ottawa 2 weeks ago, and it's now being investigated as a hate crime. So I'm not saying everybody. Some people are maybe misguided. Some people have good intentions. Some people really want to help the Palestinian people or all people end conflict, stop death. I mean, who doesn't want that? But the difference I'm seeing is at least the truckers and the convoy to Ottawa, they were protesting for Canadians in Canada, in our capital city, against the Canadian government. There was no hate crimes. There was no calls of genocide. And look at how the people were portrayed. We had the Emergency Act, police beatings, horse trampling, frozen bank accounts, as politicians laughed and called people extremists. And now we have legit extremists calling for war, death, and genocide and celebrating terrorist attacks on Canadian streets. And it's being mildly reported and downplayed. And Canadians see this. I have no problem with people protesting, and I'm not getting into who's right or wrong with Israel or Palestine, but it looks like a lot of these, let's be honest, white liberals are just screaming and crying. This is like their hot topic of the month. They basically forgot about Ukraine. And these are like the same people that were cheering for vaccines. These are the same people that say, my body, my choice against abortion, but then are wishing you fines and jail for not getting a vaccine. These same hair-dyed, angry people who often represent the true fringe minorities of society, you know, these smaller groups, say LGBTQ or whatever it is, and I'm not downplaying their importance. Everybody matters. But you can see in the protests, it's that kind of people. It's the people that are going to jump on every topic they can and scream at people and not listen. Like, for example, how many signs do we see that say gays for Palestine? That's wonderful. You're free to protest for who you want. But a lot of these people in North America wouldn't last 10 minutes in a Hamas-controlled area. It's like chickens cheering for Colonel Sanders and KFC. It just doesn't make sense to me. And the disparity of how unfair the bought and paid liberal media covers things is out of control. And Canadians see this. And that's why there's no respect for journalism. And I'm seeing they use every opportunity they can to point the finger back at us. Recently, Liberal MP Pam Danoff says she's not running again because of all the online hate and misogyny and whatever other words liberals use. What they never mention is the years and years of Trudeau and the liberals calling everyone they disagree with racist, extremists, misogynists. Their views don't matter. Do we tolerate these people? I mean, these people are like the kings and queens of identity politics, and yet they blame everybody else. This Pam Danoff, who's not running, another liberal who's not running, if you go look at the polling, right now, in her, I believe, I forget what her riding is, but she's currently 10 points behind whoever the conservative is. She's not winning. She's not winning in the next election. So they're using misogyny and the same old BS to stir up more political division and just to explain that they're not going to win. And this is a good way to take a sucker punch on your way out. And it doesn't mean there isn't online hate and there isn't nasty comments. But after almost a decade of abusive liberals and lies and deceptions and media bailouts and the way that everything seems to be shifted against truth, honesty, morals, integrity, you know, I can say I don't agree with these certain protests in Canada, but you have a right to do it in a safe and reasonable manner. But as we've seen, in some instances, they're chanting hate and genocidal comments, and it's being downplayed. And in comparison to how the truckers and Canadians were treated over vaccine mandates, this is straight up bullshit. So while we can still say things on the internet, I thought, I'll say some shit. You folks have a great weekend.